This video is on managing your financial dimensions and account structures. In Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012, we've introduced a new financial dimension framework. Creation of financial dimensions is now a user experience versus a developer experience. Let me go ahead and navigate to financial dimensions in General Ledger, Setup, Financial Dimensions, Financial Dimensions. We support two different types of financial dimensions. One is a custom dimension, and the other ones are basically set up on backing entities. So if I create a new dimension, there's a use values from dropdown, and when I select that, I can select to create a custom dimension, which is user definable, and you would manage your own values. Or we have a list of backing entities that are available in the system. If I would select something like projects, for example, all of the projects across the entire organization would be available as dimension values. And then I only maintain them as projects, and I don't have to also maintain them as dimension values. So let's go ahead and create a new financial dimension. This one, I'll make it be a custom dimension, and then we can give it a name, such as region. There's a report column name that can be a shortened version of the dimension name if you have some custom reports where the dimension is a column in the report and the name is too long for the report. I can also, for custom dimension, give it a mask, and the mask is similar to a number sequence where you can set what the number of characters are or any of the values in the for the IDs of the financial dimension values. Let's click on financial dimension values, and this is where you'll manage all of the values for that dimension. If I create a new one, I can give it a name, and we'll go pretty generic and call it region 1 and give it a description. There is a select the value, dimension value to display. Again, financial dimensions in Microsoft Dynamics AX are shared across the entire organization. Based on the account structure, as you'll see later in this video, that'll tell you which dimensions are available for a specific legal entity, but you can share the same dimension value across multiple legal entities, yet you can override specific data, and I'll talk about that as soon as I create a few of these dimension values. I can set an active from, an active to date. I can say whether it's suspended. I can give it an owner, which is an employee. The group dimension is used for consolidation purposes. So if I want to consolidate this value up to another overall value from a consolidation point, I just enter that. Here, this is just a string. I can create, make this dimension value a totaling dimension value, and if I select this option, I can then go into the totals form and select all the dimension values that should roll up to this dimension value for financial reporting. I can also not allow this dimension value to be entered manually into a journal. It would only be allowed to default. Let me create a few more, or a couple more values. So we'll have region 1, region 2, and region 3. And we'll use those later on in this demo. The other type of financial dimension, like I said before, is a backing table dimension. So if we go ahead and create a new one of those, I'm going to do something with campaigns, and I'll show you how I'm going to use that later in the account structures. But if I select campaigns, it'll default with the name. I can actually override this name at this point. And if I go into the financial dimension values form now, you'll see it's already pre-populated with the campaigns that I have in the system. Because campaigns is a company-specific setup, there is a third column added into the list called company, and this will show me which campaign is for each company, and those are the only values that are allowed. So if I'm in CEU, I'll only be able to have like home theater promo, but I cannot enter it in any of my other companies during transaction entry. At this point, I can also update the active from active to, same setup as the user definable dimension. And because I'm at a company level dimension, I can also set up the financial statement formatting and set it up for cost accounting as well. If I go back to my custom dimension and go back to the financial dimensions, I'm going to kind of show you the difference. So the other one was shared value. The other dimension that I just created didn't have this option available because it was a company-specific dimension. But a shared value, I can also select for a chart of accounts. I can override the active from, active to, suspended, and owner fields after I add a chart of accounts here. Or I can go ahead and do that at a company level, add a company, and at that point you'll see some of the same setup that you just saw on the other dimension, where I can set up the financial statement formatting and cost accounting, as those are company specific. I can also override the active from, active to, suspended, and owner fields at a company level. So next I'm going to walk you through the account structures. So under General Ledger, Setup, Chart of Accounts, Configure Account Structures, you will see the list of account structures that exist for the organization. Account structures provide the order of entry and the list of the segments that are available to be entered against a main account. A main account is required in an account structure. You can have as many account structures as you want, and you can actually associate more than one account structure to the same chart of accounts. And when you do that, just the main account cannot be referenced across all of the account structures associated to the same chart. So we do have a list of structures here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new structure for this for demo purposes to start off with, to show you how simple it is. And we'll call this one demo structure. By default, I can have the main account added as the first segment. It does not have to be the first segment. I can take that off, and then I'll get a blank screen available to me, and I can start adding a segment. And I can actually have entry order in any order. It doesn't have to be main account first, as I said. So we can start off with, maybe we want to start with department and add a segment. It's very simple, and main account, for example. And then maybe I want to add, purpose. At this point, I can also add a segment, and if I don't see it in this list, these are all your financial dimensions in the list, I can just choose to create a new financial dimension, and it will open up a simplified version of the financial dimensions form and let me create a new dimension from here as well. I can start basically building out a tree structure that sort of looks like Excel. I can type in a constraint in a node, or I can click on the filter button and start building out the filter. And you'll see the where, because in the column that I'm on, it'll display that. But I have various ways to define my structure or expressions. So I could say where a department is something, or it begins with something, or ends with something, or there's a range. So I can enter in a value at this point, and I can choose to allow blanks. If I allow blanks, that means that that dimension value is optional, and when I select OK, that will populate into the node, and then I can choose to continue to build out my nodes using the same syntax. You can build these out as complex as you need them to be. Let me add another segment just to show you an example. I'll add cost center. In In Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012, we've introduced the organization models as well. And if you build an organization hierarchy, and I have dimensions that are backed by either like business unit, department, cost center, or value stream, and then you can use those hierarchies to provide the rules that you're defining or the constraints that are valid. So I would just click on relationships at this point, and you'll see all of the organization hierarchies that are backed by two of the dimensions, and in this case department and cost center. They do not have to be next to each other. As you can see, I have two segments in between department and cost center, and I can actually have a hierarchy that starts with cost center and then department, and I can select multiple hierarchies. I can give it a color node just so I can see it on the node on the screen. And when I do that, you can see that these two dimensions already have the constraints defined between them based on an organization hierarchy. So I don't have to add all the constraints here. Once you've got everything done, then you need to activate the structure and then add it to a chart of accounts if this is a new one in order to use it. But for now, I'm going to go and move back to one of our existing structures that we're using in this company, and that's this account structure P&L. As you can see, it says that it's active, and nothing's editable in here. I don't see my add segment sign here. And that's because we do store two different versions of the structure. We have an active version and a draft version. So you can start editing your structure while your data entry people are continuing to enter and record other transactions, and then you don't have to put them in a downtime while you're changing any of your structures. So let me choose to edit this structure, and this is my P&L accounts. So I have a range of main accounts here, and then we're using department and cost center, and I'm going to go ahead and add one of those new dimensions that I added. We'll take a region. And I'm going to build out a couple of the rules here. So I'm going to say when department OU underscore 1 dot dot, which is for a range, to OU 2999, and I only want to support region 1. And make sure you spell it right. This is just a string. And we're going to go ahead and build out another department node. And now we'll say department OU department 3 to OU 4999. We want to support region 2. And then I'll add 1/3 department, which would be OU 5 to OU 999. And that one will be for region 3. And what this is now stating, that when I am in my P&L accounts range, and I've entered a department between OU 1 to OU 29999, you can only enter region 1 as a dimension value for that segment. Again, I could have the relationship set up there, and then I would just choose to activate. But before I activate it, I want to talk about advanced rules. Advanced rules, you can think about that as really appending an account structure onto an account structure. You can do a couple things in the advanced rules. You can either further constrain the columns, the segments that you have in your account structure, or you can add additional dimensions for specific scenarios. So let's say my scenario is that when I am in my sales accounts or my revenue accounts, I also want to track the campaign that brought in that revenue. I don't need it for all the rest of these accounts, so I don't want to add the segment there and make it optional so that I have to, enter it, and there could be some mistakes during data entry. So I'm going to go ahead and create an advanced rule for this structure, and we'll call it campaign. And you can add a filter, and this is just determining what the structure is, and I can select any of the dimensions that are available for use with the structure, and some of them are coming off of other advanced rules. But I'm going to say when main account is, or begins with, I should say, begins with 4, because those are my revenue accounts. I want to add a new structure to it. Well, we need to go ahead and create an advanced rule structure, and advanced rule structures are just like the account structures, except for that you can't have main account. So let's create a new one for campaign. And add my segment, and we're going to go ahead and pick a campaign. I can add multiple segments here. I can define some constraints in here, a lot, just like the account structure, as I said, but without the main account. And I'll go ahead and activate this advanced rule structure. And then in my advanced rule, I would just select to include that advanced rule structure. And I could have multiple advanced rule structures associated with this rule if I wanted to, and we would append these dimensions on in alphabetical order to the advanced rule structures and based on the rule. So let's go ahead and close that. So now basically what I've said is anytime a main account starts with 4,000, I need to enter in a region as well based on the rules of the department, and then I have an additional advanced rule that says I also need to enter a campaign. So let me go ahead and activate this structure. And this can take a little bit of process, and what it's doing at this point is it's going through the process of updating anything that I have that's unposted and making sure that that the new structure is appended onto that. So if it's a required dimension, then it's going to make me enter it before I can post. So now it's active. I do want to go ahead and open up the chart of accounts that we're using for this company just to show you the structures that are in here. So in chart of accounts, I add my account structures to the chart, and as you see there's 2 structures here. One is account structure, and those will have all my balance sheet accounts, and then the account structure, which is the one we were just working on. So let me go into accounts receivable, and I'll enter in a new free text invoice just to show you the new account entry control. So let's select a customer, and down and add a description. So we'll, sales, and I'm going to enter in a main account, and it can be any of my accounts that start with 4, and enter in an amount. Whoops, that's a quantity of 5. So we have $500, and I need to go distribute the amounts. So as we're opening up this form, this is actually going to create all the distributions, allows me to distribute them, and as well as split them out as I want. So this is our new account entry control, and when you're in here you can pop up the little flyout so you can see all the segments that it's requiring me to enter. So there's main account, department, cost center, region, expense purpose, and campaign, and this is all based on the account structure and any advanced rules. And you can leave this open or keep it closed, but it'll just default to the account I entered, and as you saw, campaign was added automatically, and so was region. So we'll go ahead and just start entering some of the rules, and as I enter in my department, it will show me when I get to region that it's filtered based on my account structure constraint of department being OU_2310. Only region 1 is valid, so we'll filter out the lookout there. And we will select, here's all my campaigns, and enter that, and then my distribution is actually valid at this point. So I will go ahead and close, and at that point I can post my my free text invoice. So that concludes this video for a quick overview of the financial dimensions and account structures. Thank you for your time.